Hey everybody, welcome to another one of my Saturday mailbags where I listen or not listen, where I talk and listeners listen and ask questions and we talk basketball together as a little family on these Saturday afternoons. This one won't be that long because I have to run down to the stadium for the Wizards game, a scintillating game between the Raptors and Wizards. I think it'll be better than the Jazz game, but yeah, we're here to talk about a few different things, and there's a Jose Sanchez in chat just says they love what they're seeing from IQ lately. That's been a really fun thing. It's in the title. The Raptors are finding their roles. There's another question from David at the top asking about like, hey, you and Trey talked about VJ Edgecombe. How do the Raptors justify selecting another shooting guard? We've kind of kicked that around. And also, I do want to talk about, as the linchpin of this discussion, Jacobe Walter, because as everybody who listens to my work knows that I've been, a big fan of Grady Dick's game, but Jacobe Walter has had a more impressive rookie season than Grady did. And Jacobe Walter has come along on the defensive end faster than he has. And I'm still really big on Grady. I still believe in that potential, of course, but he's lagged behind in some places farther than I expected as a big fan of his game. And Jacobe has exceeded in some places. And it does make me think about like the hierarchy of the shooting guard going into the future and how like a guy like VJ Edgecombe could play into that, or any number of the shooting guards who are available, or like combo guards that are available in this upcoming draft class, because it's the Raptors, as everyone has been talking about to death. It's like, how is this team going to tank their way into the bottom five? Because right now, with their strength of schedule, it's the easiest in the league by some measure. They don't even play good teams the rest of the year. They just don't. How do they justify being able to like get loose and tank? And I know we're seeing it like this game against the Wizards. We're seeing guys rested. Scotty tweaked his hand, right? And now he's going to take time off. IQ is taking his game of rest. Who knows how it looks? And there's guys like Grady who's injured. RJ's dealing with stuff. Jacob is, being put in like, hey, sometimes you're in, sometimes you're out. How do the Raptors justify, how could they possibly lose and lose at the rate that teams like, the Nets plan to be losing, teams like the 76ers plan to be losing, teams like obviously the Wizards and the Jazz? How do they do that? And all to the point, they're probably going to be selecting in the middle of the lottery. And the middle of the lottery, I know we're a few months out from it, obviously, but it seems like it's going to be packed chock full of shooting guards. And so I want to reframe this conversation about like, who are we looking forward to? What does that look like? And, maybe more than anything, we're talking about Jacobe Walter. So I'll say a couple of things first. Trey and I talked about this, for a good probably 10 minutes on one of the episodes a few weeks ago, but Jacobe Walter has impressed defensively for obvious reasons. He's, per synergy, a 95th percentile isolation defender. And I think that's a really great metric. And he's now second percentile as a pick and roll ball handler defender. But I feel, and he's also really bad defending handoffs. He's manipulated into screens and he gets caught up on screens a lot. But I do think he'll be lithe enough to get around them in the future. He has some drawbacks defensively at this point, but that statistic on isolation and the fact that it matches not just my own, but basically everybody's eye test, right? Everybody sees that he's able to stick with guys. Everybody sees that he's able to put himself in good defensive positions. He's also, a bit of an like he rebounds better than people thought. He can cut pretty well. He's able to do a lot of things that are like the garbage manning around. And that certainly wasn't what he was asked to do at Baylor. That certainly wasn't what he was asked to do, as a big time shot creator over there. And it meshes with what I thought was like a really, really great question from Aldo Mija on Twitter. Asks, is there not a contradiction when we sit starters to develop the bench when those bench guys are not developing role player skills, but get thrown to the fire to create and take 20 plus shots a game and close possessions? Then when the starters come back healthy next year, ... ego. This is a really great question, because there are some competing conceptions about like what role looks like, who achieves the best role, and what do you do to maximize players. And it's a really great question, because I've been harping on this, that I all season have been saying that I thought the pathway to Scotty, the best development for him was not getting threes up during the season, but was working on his driving game and his counters during the season, because I think those reps are more valuable in an NBA game with an NBA defense that wants to stop you. And reps that work in the summer are shooting reps. Guys come back from the summer with a jumper all the time. Do jumpers develop in season? Maybe sometimes, but it seems like just getting shots up and getting that muscle memory in the summer is a huge deal. And what is hard to recreate? Driving. Those possessions, sure, you can get them in the summer through some form of piecemeal and in runs, but there's nothing like a driving possession where you're having a defense respond to you in different ways and having a defense plan against you and having a defense that is not a guy playing one-on-one defense at a pickup run, but it's a team organized to try and stop you, Scotty Barnes. So that's something I've been harping on. And to that point, doing hard things is really good. When we think about some of the best, like, quote unquote, role players in the NBA, I think oftentimes it's guys who, let's say, have tried that stardom streak, at least dipped their toes in it. KCP never tried the stardom streak, but he was, for like a season and a half, 2 seasons, the, shooting guard of the future in Detroit. And in Detroit, that means something because they have a laundry list of these high volume shooting guards who go and get you buckets in Detroit, starting with like Joe Dumars all the way to guys like Stack, right? And so, well, Stack, shooting forward, shooting guard, however you want to, or small forward, however you want to frame it. But KCP got a lot of possessions to try stuff out. And then he meandered his way through the league, and found his way to, for like 3 or 4 years, a fantastic role player positionality. And Andrew Wiggins is the same thing, right? Like, Andrew Wiggins clearly got a ton of reps as being this big star wing, and then found his way to the Warriors. It took him 45 games to adjust, and then became a linchpin in a team that would win a championship. And you could argue maybe that he was the second best or third best player during the finals when they won. I mean, he started, of course, by rights, Andrew Wiggins shouldn't have been in the All-Star game, but he did start in the All-Star game. And so this is such a good question from Aldo, because there are guys like Danny Green. There are guys like Tony Allen. There are guys who they play that role player role their whole life. And they are fantastic. Like, Danny Green is one of the best role players ever to me. And they play that their whole life. Let's say Dennis Rodman is also like this. Never got too big for any britches. Just was like, I'm a garbage man and I'm the best at it in the whole league. You know what I mean? And so as far as that goes, it's a great conceptual question, because it's like, what is easier, teaching a guy to be a role player and not worrying about and then you don't worry about ego, quote unquote, but what does it look like? And for me, if I'm putting my money down, and of course there's some game theory, team building stuff that's like, well, KCP did it on his second and third team. Andrew Wiggins did it on his second team. Like, there's obviously a problem that comes up there. And there is a problem in the NBA that, like, the second contract awesome guys or third contract awesome guys typically float towards really strong teams. And as far as like that stuff goes, the Raptors have to be able to put themselves in a really strong spot. But as far as developing those guys, if you're going to assume that Jacobe is on the Raptors' second contract, third contract, although I think I want Jacobe getting those reps, as long as those reps don't overshadow the garbage manning, the role player stuff that he very clearly already does. And some guys, once they get that star status, they completely abandon all of the impressive in-between stuff that got them there. However, like, OG Anunoby is another example of that, right? They tried to get him to do it, and all of those reps in Toronto where OG did some creation and failed and wasn't good enough to justify like keeping it. Some of that stuff, some of those possessions, I think personally, are going to bear out and bear fruit for the New York Knicks when they're in, these gritty playoff series where they need like creation out of nowhere and attack off the closeout. Like, OG's reps will end up helping him in the future. And so for that reason, I think that a guy like Jacobe, these reps where he is creating the pick and roll reps where he's kind of like a little bit below average as far as points per possession, creating out of the pick and roll for himself and others. But you see some of the time, like he's able to get downhill, put a few dribbles down, get to a spot in the mid range. What Jacobe is doing is not big gobs of creation. And I don't even see that much. I don't see that being a huge part of his future, but I do see him being able to like attack closeouts, make the progressive read, and be a role player who can fit into a really strong starting five, which is a huge deal, or like a really, really strong super sub. That's what I see for Jacobe Walter. And of course, he could prove me wrong. Like potential is potential, right? And players can completely exceed what dummies like me think simply by putting work in and having it manifest is really impressive offensive prowess. But for right now, because there's another question asking like what I think Jacobe's ultimate potential is, I just think Jacobe is a guy who should get some creation reps and should get to try stuff. And I think that will manifest. Not only do you get to like kind of look and see and be like, all right, is this guy, what is his potential? What does it maybe look like? Sure. But also, I think it prepares you for more dynamic secondhand creation or more dynamic open interpretive play in the future. That is my hope for Jacobe Walter. And to just address this again, because, it's the name of the podcast, like the Raptors are in their roles. We've seen guys lately in their more natural roles. Scotty's not been going crazy with the volume. He's played more of a reserved role. He's allowed the team to create looks for him, and he's taken his drives in the pace, in the flow of the game. It's been a really big difference lately. And like I think he's averaging like 18 points per game or so. I'll look this up. He's averaging, if I had to guess, like 18 points per game since the call out of Matt Bonner, when Matt Bonner was like, Scotty doesn't really have a bag. And then Scotty had 33 against the 76ers. I thought that was more of a matchup 33. But I mean, who the hell cares, right? So Scotty, since then, he's taking, 15 shots a game. He's scoring 18 points per game, 5 assists, 8 rebounds. The volume has definitely come down a little bit, but he's taking his shots to try and drive. He is playing more so in the flow of the game, and the Raptors are just handing over more of the offense to a guy like, I mean, they should be trying different things with different people. And Scotty is, as far as like playing basketball, as far as like being out on the court, is very selfless when it comes to like sharing the basketball and playing quote unquote the right way, making reads that don't necessarily benefit himself as a scorer. So everyone gets to kind of try things. And so Jacobe Walter, he represents a certain level of upside, right? And at the shooting guard position, KCP, Lewis and I talked about it. I think that's like a great, because I don't really like comparisons. It's very hard in the NBA, but like as a point of an inflection point, like, hey, maybe this guy could be really, really fun. And that's something to aim for, to shoot for. I think there's a lot of differences in their game, obviously. But as far as like, sorry, I'm reading, there's comments about me taking the hat off in the chat. Sorry guys, not today. I got to shave it before I go to the game. And I will not be growing out a skull. It's not going to work for me. So, but regardless, like Jacobe represents a certain level of upside. And also the cool thing about Jacobe is that I think he can fit alongside anybody. Like Jacobe will obviously be, if Grady becomes the player that everybody wants him to be, Jacobe would fit great alongside Grady. As far as like what Grady is going to be, Grady offensively, it's easy to see him fitting alongside anybody. Like the Raptors could be chock full of RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, and maybe Scotty's playing like small ball 5 or something. Grady can fit into that perfectly. Of course, that, as YA in chat brings up, I fear that Grady's defense is so porous that he may not be an ideal fit in the starting unit. There's potential for that. As a big Grady booster myself, who really celebrated when he got drafted and has preached about, like, I think Grady's going to be good. I believe in him. I think that the defense is lagging behind from where I thought it would be. He's clearly lost weight during the season, and he's also like, he just needs to be able to keep the weight on, and it's tough. It's tough. He needs to eat a lot. He needs to, like, it's just because it'll help him stay in, because he gets thrown. He gets thrown. He can even be in the right place and he'll still get thrown. He needs to be more solid, and that's keeping him lagging behind. And Grady, the offensive fit, I think, is so easy, will be there, but the defense next year, at the end of the year, is going to be extension talk time. This is a huge summer. He's injured right now. This is a huge summer for Grady. Massive, to put on weight and come back next year in a Raptors team that will be trying to make the playoffs. So if you don't defend your position, at least to some degree, or if you don't outweigh it by being unbelievable on offense and giving like 59, 60% true shooting on a tough shot diet and really helping out everybody, and he does really help out everybody. His gravity is clear, but if that doesn't happen, the extensions won't be what he wants. You know, ND in chat says he needs them calories. Caleb says swole Grady summer. That's what we're crossing our fingers for. And Grady's offensive game is much more expansive than Jacobe's, but you have to establish a floor here. And Grady's defense was stronger at the start of the season, I think, when he had the LBs on, than it is now. And to me, as an analyst, a fan of his game, that's disappointing. You don't want to see that stuff. You want to see it trend upwards. Of course, progression isn't linear and never will be, but it's just something to consider. So how does that play in to what the Raptors do at the draft? I think that the Raptors, it's always best player available, because at this point, and I know, like, you know, people make jokes because Trey and I did that podcast maybe November where we were talking about untouchables on the roster. And Trey said Grady was untouchable. It's a bit of hyperbole, of course. And I was like, man, he can't be untouchable for me. But it's just like Grady had that awesome start to the season, and it just hasn't been able to carry over to the rest of the season. But it's just like, we need to see it. And Grady hasn't been so good that you ignore the shooting guard position in the draft. And Jacobe isn't so good that you ignore the shooting guard position in the draft, right? Like, hardly anybody cares about, you know, Jalen Wells, right? Like, Jalen Wells has been having an awesome rookie season in Memphis. He has 11 points per game, 3.2 rebounds. He's been better on defense than people think. He shoots the hell out of the basketball. And if you, from the outside looking in, said like, well, the Grizzlies shouldn't choose a shooting guard who they think could be really great because of Desmond Bane and Jalen Wells, you'd probably say, no, take that guy. You know what I mean? So I don't think, like, it's a good question about when you consider RJ Barrett and Jacobe Walter and Grady Dick, but it's the same thing that I said when the Raptors traded for Brandon Ingram. The more talent on the roster, make guys compete. If a guy falls to the wayside, honestly, the guys fall to the wayside. That just really, really is, it's not kind, but the NBA has guaranteed contracts. If you fall to the wayside, you're getting paid while you're doing it. The Raptors could benefit, to me, greatly from being a team that is a little bit more hard-nosed next year in saying like, hey, if it's not your night, you're not really playing. So get back into it next game. Bring your best. Bring the ruckus. So, you know, like Nash 24 says, that's exactly it. Rather have a wealth of options at the shooting guard spot to foster competition and to evaluate who are the better long-term fits. I think it's healthy. I think it's good. And also when you consider like RJ, I know there's been the rumors, and I know people are saying like, don't believe those rumors. I'll say, I feel the same way about the RJ Barrett rumors currently, or reporting currently, as I did about the OG stuff that came out at the time and way back when. And the OG stuff, I said I trusted Jake Fisher's reporting. I think that did bear out as true. OG was looking elsewhere and was wondering what the next step in his career was going to be. And Raptors fans were very resistant to accept that. In my reading of the tea leaves, and again, I'm not like the big reporter guy who knows everything. In my assessment, I think that it is a real possibility from the organization's point of view. I don't I really like RJ, but I think it's a real possibility that he is discussed in trades and that he will be traded. Now, again, I'm not big reporter guy. This is my reading of the situation. That's what it is. And so anyway, I distracted myself a little bit. But to the point, RJ, Grady, Jacobe, Emmanuel quickly could play two guard in a pinch for a bunch of different lineups, right? Oh man, I guess it depends on what happens with the point guard position going forward. But that, as the chatter said up farther up in the chat, it's like fostering competition is healthy. And between RJ and Grady, if either of those guys, like RJ he's been part of the best Raptors defensive units. I'm never going to, unless I see it, going to advocate for RJ being a positive defender. I just don't think that's true. But RJ has not tanked good defensive units, and that means something to me. Now, you can hope for more. You always want to hope for more. However, that's kind of like he doesn't take those defensive units. That's important. If RJ becomes a neutral defensively, is that good? Does he justify a spot at the 3 or the 2 or the in between lineups? Is he a sixth man? All this kind of stuff. If let's say, goddamn, if Grady, who has more size than anyone, like I think he's a little bit taller than RJ, if Grady fills out and can guard threes who have slower feet and he bulks up, is that a possibility in the future? I don't think it's a huge possibility, but that would be nice. You have to be able to entertain all these possibilities. And even if there's RJ, Jacobe, Grady, draft pick, maybe it's VJ Edgecombe, maybe whoever, these are not mutually exclusive. Dog eat dog. Let's see the best. You know what I mean? I think it's healthy. It was something that Davion and Jamal Shed and DJ Carton were talking about all training camp. They're like, we all, iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? This helps everything. ND says people got to understand, even though RJ is better, IQ unlocks every other player with his shooting gravity. This is a great segue for me. Thank you, ND. And I'll be honest. Yes, I think RJ is a better player than Emmanuel Quickly right now. I know that's not like the in vogue idea. And Emmanuel, and of course, and I'll be honest, I am lower on Emmanuel than consensus. Anybody can disagree, of course. If you think I'm too low on him, totally fine. If you think I'm too high on RJ, totally fine. Disagreement is perfectly healthy. But I do think that RJ has been better as a Raptor than IQ. And I'm not completely sold that IQ will be the better play going forward. That's all on the table. However, I have really, Cosmo says IQ optimism from Samson's lips. Yes, IQ has really done a good job in the games where, and this is about, it's in the title, the Raptors are finding their roles, where IQ kind of gets to drop all pretense of point guarding. He struggles kind of making the offense hum and flow by getting everybody involved and making things happen that way. However, since the Raptors are trying to get creation from a bunch of different places, like a Jacobe Walter, Jared Rhoden even gets a couple opportunities. Scotty gets to do stuff, right? Like and whether it's RJ or whoever else, everybody's kind of getting a shot at it. And that means that IQ can kind of just like float in and out as a soloist. And that's why he was able to score 18 points and 2 assists in 5 minutes of play. However, like 3 games ago. That's why he was able to go for 34 last night. Is like the pretense of point guarding and being the floor general has been erased lately for IQ. It's just like, go hunt your offense, whether it's on ball or whether it's this guy relocating to try and provide shooting gravity, to try and provide shooting punch. Just like, go get yours. And it's been really healthy for his game. And that's like, I think that fits well with Scotty. And I know the Raptors are a team who you look like they had success with Davion Mitchell being a very selfless floor general. Dennis Schroeder, Darko Rajkovic wants that from his point guards. However, that isn't what IQ does best. It just really isn't what IQ does best. And Scotty Barnes is, a really helpful big wing, talented wing to play off of, who can toggle his usage based on like how much of the I'm gonna get mine situation that I guess like Emmanuel Quigley's in. Also, there's 640 people watching this live. Like the video, it helps the channel. Thanks for popping in on 2 p.m. on a Saturday. When you like the video, it helps spread this to other people who I guess hopefully like the work as well. But to that point, like Emmanuel Quickley being a shoot first player is exactly what he needs to be. Because as we talked about, over the past couple, however many podcasts, and it's also like Lewis has that tweet where he was trying to find my article on Google, and he typed in Emmanuel Quickley, Samson Folk triples, and the AI overview said Samson Folk, assistant coach for the Raptors, says that Emmanuel Quickley needs to shoot more threes, which is awesome. I like that AI is I love when AI is fallible because I'm not a fan. So the fact that it called me, not only did it, elevate me, but it was wrong. Hell yeah. Nash24 says IQ being a release valve for Scotty has been fun to watch. Yes. Just like the fact that he was sitting at the top end of percentage on pull-up threes and he's taking 3 a game. Indefensible. Just not palatable, right? Cosmo says it's probably because you have coach in your Twitter name. 100%. But AI is dumb and they can't figure it out, man. They can't do it. That's 100% why. Although, yeah, anyway. So IQ being a guy who just like hunts for it, only taking 3 pull-up threes a game when he's shooting 42% on them. No. Get those shots up. I talked to Darko about this many times, and Darko, anytime he's asked about it, he's like, I want him to shoot 12 a game. Go shoot 12 a game. Just get the shots up, dude. The Raptors can't replicate your skill set anywhere else on the roster. This is what happens. RJ Barrett, is he as much of a usage player right now as he probably should be? No, he has more usage than he's probably equipped for or would be the ultimate efficiency for him. He's using it more now than he did last year, right? What was he last year when he shot? He was like 61% true shooting, right, with the Raptors last season. And some of that was like a really hot stretch, finishing. And some of that was like a really hot stretch of catch and shoot 3-point shooting. But his usage then was like 25%. His usage this year is 28.5. I guess it's 25.7. But it's like a huge jump. That's not ideal for RJ, but the Raptors need a guy who can get paint touches and get to the rim. RJ has a high correlation with the rest of the team of when he passes to them, they shoot better because he attracts so much defense. He creates open looks. Do you want RJ Barrett, if you're going to the finals, being the guy who's like, he has all the possessions? No, you're not going to win the finals. However, this Raptors team, when they're limited when it comes to like 3-point talent, yes, Emmanuel Quickley, hoist them up. When they're limited as far as like on the ball driving talent, yes, RJ, go try and like work your way to the bucket, worm your way there, rummage. But the Raptors as a team, they have to lean on these skill sets because they don't have them in abundance. It's not like if Scotty was having his start to the season where he shot like 38% on 6 threes a game in 2023-24, maybe there's less consideration about like all this stuff. Maybe you're like, okay, IQ, we only need 7 or 8. But no, Scotty's having a tough time shooting a 3. RJ is definitely not going to pull up for 3. He's been perfectly fine as, a catch and shoot option. That's a big development for RJ. God, the free throws though, dude. God, the free throws. But IQ, it is just absolutely imperative that he hoists those shots up, that he uses that 3-point shot not only to be a shooter and to create gravity for others, but to create driving lanes for himself, because he isn't a very strong, like manipulative, keep a guy in jail, watch the defense and try and move guys out of spaces so you can pass players into shots. Like, he's not strong there. However, if he's just driving downhill in a 5-on-4 or like 4-on-3 situation because he drew a super dramatic closeout because of his shooting talent, most NBA players can make, the food out of those ingredients, like driving downhill with a man advantage. You can do something with that. Quickley needs to leverage his 3-point shot more than he currently is. He's been doing a great job lately of pushing the pace for his own game, making sure that he puts in work. That's been nice to see. That's all we're talking about. Slomo says Walter out tonight. Yeah. Jacobe will probably be out for a couple games as far as I remember. Good Morning says, how do you think BI is going to operate with IQ and Scotty in games without RJ? So Brandon Ingram, I think, if I had to guess, he will have the highest usage on the Raptors. If I had to guess, like it's tough to say because Scotty is the de facto star in Toronto, and there's just no way the Raptors prioritize Ingram above Scotty. However, but they will prioritize Ingram, and Ingram is the most talented offensive player on the roster. His usage will be the highest. And that's such a good question. Um, his usage will be the highest. Scotty's will probably be second highest, and I suspect Emmanuel Quickley's will be third because with a full training camp and with what this team needs to be, if Emmanuel Quickley's usage doesn't spike just because of like go get shots up, then I don't know. Like I'll be pretty disappointed with Emmanuel Quickley overall as a player if he can't just like hoist them up. That's what this team needs. And so it's we'll see. How do they play? I mean, Emmanuel Quickley has to kind of like be very deliberate in making himself a movement 3-point shooter. It's not natural to his game because he is a soloist. He is a guy who gets shots unassisted 3-point shots up. He is a guy who shoots out of isolation. And all three of those guys, Scotty, Brandon, and IQ, like to work out of isolation. You know, to his credit, RJ Barrett is probably like the most flow player there. He runs a lot of handoffs. He runs a lot of pick and roll. And, you know, obviously Ingram is like the king as far as like offensive talent, but he doesn't play flow basketball. And that's why RJ has been able to, you know, take these steps as a Raptor. He plays in the flow, and credit to him. The Raptors don't have enough flow guys, though. Is the thing. That's why the offense can look kind of clunky and truncated sometimes. But regardless, I think that Ingram will be the guy who handles the ball the most. The Raptors will try to elicit more flow out of his game, more movement. They'll try to be quicker on the second and third passes. They'll try to be quicker moving between, you know, actions, whether it's like running pistol to start, which obviously Ingram will be, you know, a part of. And like maybe you go Ingram, Scotty, and IQ. Who knows? It depends on who they're running. Maybe it's Ingram, Scotty, and Jacob. Who knows? But it just we'll see how it goes. It's tough to predict how, like IQ. I'll just make it just make it simple. Don't worry about anything. Shoot a lot of threes. Work off of those guys. And just make sure that you're there to support actions as a spacer. Make sure that you let it fly when you have the opportunity. If IQ does that, he will be able to have a very clear blueprint for what success is, and he can work on tinkering as a driver and all that kind of stuff. It's Nameless in chat says, I thought Scotty Barnes was great last night, finding his game and allowing the offense to come to him. I agree. He had a terrible, abysmal first half of offense where, you know, when the ball would find him and he'd be like, all right, I'll give it a shot. It's just, it didn't go that well. But as the game kind of loosened up and there were opportunities for him to push in pseudo transition, as there are opportunities for him to get touches and be able to work downhill, he scored like, what was it, like 16, 18 points in the third quarter, just got to the bucket repeatedly, made things happen. Hell yeah. Having Brandon Ingram there will allow, you know, Scotty more of those types of games where he is so strong. He's so strong defensively, and he's so strong on the glass, and he's so strong as a guy who like can make those connective passes that just having him out there, you're going to benefit from it. And when he gets to like kind of step into the game when he sees fit, because he is a limited dribbler, he can't make anything happen whenever he wants. He has to, and that's why he was able to score 33 against Philadelphia. Like the stage was set, the defensive personnel was easier for him. Like Gershon Yabusele, nope. Joel Embiid was 3 games removed. Like 3 games later, the 76ers tried to medically retire him, you know? And like guys like Kelly Oubre Jr., not going to happen. The defensive personnel wasn't there for him. And the 76ers played drop defense, which automatically allows, with the screen, Scotty to start working downhill. He doesn't have to be the guy with his dribble. He's going downhill, and he can make that work. So Scotty being able to like keep his finger on the pulse of the game, step in when he needs to, and overwhelm for large periods of time is very good for him. And I think Brandon Ingram will allow that for Scotty. And on top of that, Scotty is not above garbage manning. He'll get on the offensive glass. He'll finish things. Hopefully he becomes a better roller and screener as time goes on, but he's also, a savvy cutter, and he's a really strong finisher. So all these things should benefit Scotty greatly in my estimation. And Brandon Ingram, I think, should benefit from playing next to a guy like Scotty, the same way that, when Scotty and Pascal were playing together, I certainly didn't think that they were going to go to the finals or anything, but I was a person who always preached that the fit wasn't as bad as people let on. And you can see in the year following, it's been, a year and 2 months or a year and a month and a half since the trade. It's pretty clear that Pascal benefited Scotty's offensive game, both in the assignments that he took and the positions he was able to help Scotty put himself in. I think that the Raptors, as a team that screen a lot, as a team that really uses the high-low passing and uses off-ball screening to create angles for like low catches and stuff like that, having two big wings like Ingram and Scotty, it works as a facsimile of the things that worked with Pascal, with those slice screens to create mismatches, with that bully ball that can work for a guy like Scotty. Because think about, what happens if Scotty and Ingram run a possession, like a pick and roll together. Sure, it's going to be like-sized defenders, probably, if you had to guess. So they'll probably switch it. But Brandon Ingram, is he going to be able to boogie and woogie on the probably heavier person who switched out off of Scotty? Probably. Is Scotty going to be able to carve out a bunch of post-touch area against the probably slighter defender that's on Brandon Ingram? Probably. And just like the off-ball screening, whether it's like a flex screen, whether it's a slice screen, whether it's a million different things, they're going to be able to establish themselves in the paint. The Raptors run flex action, the Pelicans run flex action. I think that, Brandon will be involved as a screener and a cutter, obviously. So it's just, I think it'll work, that pair, that trio. Okay. There was a question about, oh man, what's the question? Oh, this one's quick. Real Calm says, what would our draft position be if we finished in the 10th spot and made the playoffs? And are there good rookies to be had in that position? Okay, so I'm pretty sure if you make the playoffs, you're not in the lottery. So they would probably have the worst record. They'd be selecting 15th. I guess I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure you're not in the lottery if you make, like, you swap the play-in stuff if you make the playoffs. If I remember correctly, that could be wrong, but yeah, just as a quick thing. So which was the one? Oh yeah. Okay. Where's the question? Okay. Yes. God. Here we go. I found it. Sorry. Jamie says, next pod, I'd love to hear the best case scenario you can see for him. Oh, Jesus. I'm reading the wrong thing again. Oh, I didn't. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm a dumb guy. I'm a stupid, dumb guy. There was a question about how much the players benefit from like getting into the playoffs. And I'll go there. Jesus, Lord in heaven, I can't find it. But there's a question about that. So how does making the play-in, and yeah, corner dumbbells. Yeah, they're right there. There we go. So what would making the play-in do for the Raptors? I'll be honest, like the play-in with Brandon Ingram, that's what it is. How do the Raptors benefit from that? I don't think very much. I think that the play-in for the Raptors, and again, I don't like tanking. From my point of view, I don't like tanking. However, liking something and something being effective, especially in a down season where you've already traded for a guy who's supposed to raise your floor like Brandon Ingram, and this is a lost season to some degree, I don't like tanking. I think that the NBA would benefit from like trying to fix it to some degree. However, it seems to me, and to many people, I agree with them, the best thing for this team, in my opinion, is to lose as many games as possible towards the end of the season. Now, People don't like talking about tanking that much. I will say that. Like I think that's probably the best. The stuff that could hurt culture and stuff like that, it's possible, but I don't think towards the end of this season it would hurt anything. Now, if next year, let's say, they don't do as well as they like and they start tanking again, then I think there's potential cultural stuff. Then I think you're in Scotty's first year of his max contract. Then I think, it's year 3 for Grady, and all he's ever known is just like, oh, we tank, we lose games, we don't, and that can have negative effects. Obviously, we see it happen. You don't want to be around the bottom for too long, and people bring up, the Thunder, for example, right? But like the Thunder, they did a good job tanking, but they also have Shea, an MVP candidate, who also seems like he has just an incredible head on his shoulders, who sits there in the post. I'm going to get into aura talk here right away. Who has an incredible head on his shoulders, who, it's like, how are you so consistent? My whole life is consistent. He seems incorrigible. You know what I mean? Like Shea, he's unflappable. You don't get that lucky all the time. It's not often that, like, not only are you trying to lose, but you have that resilient star who becomes an MVP candidate year in and year out, and also gets along so well with your young guys, and also is just like the coolest damn guy ever. You know what I mean? The Thunder did, by the analytics of it all, the right thing by tanking, sure, but the Shea thing wasn't the same thing. It's just two things merging. But yeah, the Raptors, would they benefit from this play-in? I think very little. Now, if they got to a playoff series, that's different. I think they would benefit from a playoff series. However, I don't think they would. If they did, I would be very interested to once again be able to check in on guys like RJ and Emmanuel quickly in a playoff environment, because RJ is someone who's very comfortable with physicality, and we've seen him perform better in the playoffs than he has in the regular season in the past. And quickly is a guy who's less comfortable with physicality, and we haven't seen him have his moment in the playoffs yet. Not yet. Hopefully in the future. Guys like Grady, guys like Jacobe, the smaller guys, you see how they fit in. Scotty is a guy who's super comfortable with physicality. He's a guy, if I'm thinking about Scotty's game and what guys I usually see as playoff risers, I think Scotty could definitely be a playoff riser. It would be fun to see that stuff manifest. And Brandon Ingram, part of why he was so available to the Raptors, the last time we saw him in the playoffs, he was coming off a massive injury and he struggled immensely. He had a really terrible playoff series. Do I think he would have a better playoff series? Yeah. Do I think Brandon Ingram could maybe like put some dip on the chip? Yeah, I think he could. That stuff could be fun. However, you have to keep in mind it would be against like the Celtics or the Cavs. I don't know how long that series goes, man. And what is more important than that play-in? What is more important than that series? I think it's that a really strong pick. I do, because the Raptors very clearly have talent on their roster, but they need not generational talent, but transformative talent. And the clearest, most definitive way to be able to do that at this point, it's that draft pick, man. It's being able to select that guy. Jose Sanchez says pushing the Cavs to 6 would be an amazing outcome. Oh, dude. I would love covering a 6-game series against the Cavs. I would have so much fun covering a 6-game series against the Cavs. Are you kidding me? That would be incredible. I love Darius Garland. I love Donovan Mitchell. I really like Jared Allen. I respect Evan Mobley's game. He's very impressive. I like so much of the Cavs team, and I really like watching these Raptors. And could you imagine if they made it? Then we're talking about a super fun team. But this is just like, this is fan fiction from me, because it's like the odds are none of this happens. The odds are that the Raptors are not in the play-in. I don't know actually with their schedule. Who knows? But I hope the Raptors, and I'll just say, whether it's through the play-in and the back end of the lottery or the front end of the lottery, God hope the Raptors are selecting really high in this draft. It would mean something to me, man. I think it would be very, very helpful. When the Raptors made that jump, that leap from what were they, 7th odds, 8th odds to 4th, and then they got Scotty Barnes. That was special, dude. Whew, that was special. Jose Sanchez says we're a Spider Mitchell ankle sprain away from making noise. Yeah. Oh, man. SP says the Cavs haven't seen us with Ingram. We'll have 2 months of practice with him, and the Cavs won't have any info on us. We're a Trojan horse. Hell yeah, dude. It's the meeting of the minds. We're concocting how the Raptors can can beat the Cavs. I'll say though, honestly, I don't think it's a strong likelihood. As much as I enjoy this team, as much as I just don't think it's gonna happen. This might be wait, let me look at one more question, but I can't stay as long as I usually do on this mailbag because I do have to go down to the stadium today. I just have to find this damn all the questions. I'm looking for a good question. Makai asked me, which G League guy do you think shows the most promise? He's pranking me because he knows I haven't seen that much of the 905. He wants to make me to make an ass of myself. I'm not going to answer this question. I'll leave this to Cody Wiles, who has done a fantastic job covering the 905 for the Raptors, or Blake Murphy, who has always been the czar of the 905. Also, Rip D Rose had an awesome question about establishing an armed militia to defend our borders. I love politics stocks, so I appreciate that you put that in there. However, I will not be divulging my plans for protecting the Canadian borders. Okay, so what was the last question I want to ask? Oh yeah, let's see. Oh, that was the question. The Brandon Ingram question was from Sergio. Why would it be beneficial for the Raptors with Brandon Ingram to get some playoff experience this year? Good question, thoughtful question, but I think it's probably better if they don't. But I did address like why it would be beneficial, why you could see something. Okay, from Live by the Three, my dear friend Curly will be on the podcast soon. Prior to March Madness, we'll be talking some prospects, myself, Curly, and Trey, with potentially Mac. Quote, longtime viewer, first-time tweeter, RJ trade talk has been disappointing as I think he embodies what the Raps want to be culturally for the future, hardworking, team first, etc. Do you think trading RJ could have a negative impact from team/player morale/perspective? This is a good question. It's a really good question, and it's a tough one to answer because I think these are better questions for people who are truly, truly tapped in. As a guy who goes to the games and practices and talks to players and coaches, I have a better feel for what's going on than like, say, just like a fan, right? I'm supposed to. That's my job. I'm supposed to know more about these players. Of course, fans can think they know more than me, and they potentially could, but it's my job to try and know more than fans. It's my job to try and convey information and knowledge. I am not the guy who's like so tapped in. I don't know how everybody on the roster feels about RJ Barrett. To me, it seems like he is really well liked there. To me, it seems like he likes his teammates too. This Raptors team does seem very harmonious, but they're also not very good. And their best players haven't been able to play long stretches of time together, and we haven't really seen what that looks like. Do I think, personally, that it's better for the Raptors to see what next year looks like with RJ Barrett and the amalgam of different players they have? Yeah, I do. Do some people think it would benefit the Raptors to get ahead of it all and make that decision this summer? Some people do. That's a rift. That's a definite, like, those things. Some people believe it's one thing. Some people believe it's the other. I would like to see what it looks like next year. I really would. And you can pivot from there. Is it potentially a better pivoting point this year? Maybe. But these are unknowns, and I really don't have the answer to that. But I would like to see RJ, the guy who got traded here, immediately started playing better, is part of the Raptors' best defensive lineups, not as the main motivator, but as a guy who exists in them, the guy who's improved his offense. I want to see that guy have a chance to play winning basketball in Toronto. I do. Maybe that's a little bit too much of a softy take from me, but I want to see him get a chance. And if it doesn't happen, then you start looking at like, okay, who's available for trade? How do we make it go from here? Maybe I'm being too much of a softy, but I want to see RJ get a chance to play winning basketball in Toronto, just like I want to see everyone else, because RJ's the one in the trade talks. I want everybody. I want to see this team win. Not this year, not this year, but I want to see them win next year. Caleb says being a softie is why we watch RR. Is this the softie? S and I are pretty soft. We're soft guys, maybe. You know, it's my past of carpentry that's softened me up. You know, working with your hands makes you more compassionate, perhaps. Andrew says RJ has improved his playmaking, defense to a degree, and shooting in Toronto. Yeah, 100%. I've covered RJ extensively. I've looked at a lot of his game. Not only has he improved the hard things, but he started to do the smaller things too. It's just yeah, maybe too much for softy, but I would like to see RJ be on this team when they start trying to win. I think that's good. Now, as Curly, asked, is there potentially a fallout personnel wise? I mean, I probably not a whole bunch if I had to guess. Nash24 says, have you spoken about the media game? Aren't you a champ? Yeah, I spoke about it just a little bit. MVP Gavin Barry, he was great. He played for U of T, I think. And myself, God, I don't even remember everyone on the team. But for podcast listeners, myself and Lou and William Lou were on the same squad, and it was fun. I didn't play very well though. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't play very well. I hadn't played basketball in like 4 or 5 months, and that happened last year too, because I was in Mexico prior to. I was in Saskatoon and then Mexico prior to coming back for the media game, and I need to play more basketball before the media game so I can show out. But there's a nice little clip of me getting an end one near the end of the championship game or whatever. So yeah, Pedro Toad says watch Samson. Yes, dude. Bazooka says washed. Yeah, I need to work at not being washed. I'm working too hard at rock climbing. I need to, because I rock climb a few times a week because I really like rock climbing and I want to get better at it. But what I really need to do is I need to mix in some more basketball. So yeah. And like, I used to play basketball at this court, like by my house over there. But then, you go to these runs in Toronto and people they steal your ball, dude. And balls are expensive. So I haven't bought a ball since. Damn. Anyway. Yeah. But the media game was fun. Like, I was a little bit miffed, or not miffed. I was just disappointed that they didn't do the OG court. Like, I love that purple court. I wish we could have got to play on that. I was like, man, that seems like a missed opportunity. But they're not going to have the crew come in and move courts around, and they're not going to schedule, a purple court game prior to whatever the hell. So it is what it is. But would have liked to play on that court, because that is, to me, that's the best court in the NBA. And to be able to see you played on it would be cool. But it's just fun. It's just like a bunch. Yeah, exactly. Pedro Toad says Samson forcing 30 plus employees to switch out floorboards for the media game. Look at this arrogance. Yeah, dude. Hubris, arrogance, got it all. Yeah. Pedro Toad says this is why Blake Murphy's better. Blake and I had this conversation and he echoed my sentiments. In fact, when we were there. So just so you know, I will never advocate for myself to be a good guy, but I will advocate for Blake to be a bad one. So anyway, but yeah, it's just fun to get everybody there to play. Like, there's that, there's in the video, like James Wade, the assistant coach of the Raptors, like, I hit the end one, everyone's like, and one. He goes to the camera, he goes, and one. It's just cool because, like, you talk to these coaches and everybody around the organization, and then they get to watch all of us pathetic media members play basketball and have a good laugh. And then when they see us asking like some analysis question, they're like, man, you're no good at basketball. Shut the hell up, dude. I know there's a lot of talk now in this day and age about like bought media, because unfortunately, like, the trickle down of, let's say, talking points from like politics and like the captive media and all that kind of stuff people just see that and then like implant it into whatever the hell their interests are. So you get someone like me who's worked for like the independent Raptors Republic website, which is now part of, the Nation Network, but has no ties to the Raptors. Like, you have people suggest on a whim that I'm like bot media, and they say it about like whoever they want, whoever they disagree with. It's just like bot media. But I don't think that's true, but I also think it's healthy for us to, have like a Raptors assistant coach coaching the media game, because like, not only is it important as a media member to humanize the people you don't know, but it's also important to like understand things and be able to like properly. I hear things all the time that like I don't talk about, because it's like, well, how do you verify that? How do you validate that? Sometimes people just talk. It's important to be around those situations so that you properly humanize people, even if you don't know them, and the people that you do know. And that connection is important. It really is. And it's not for access, because I don't report anything. I'm not like a newsbreaker. I never try to be. But being around these guys helps me humanize them. And I never, ever feel bad about humanizing an athlete or trying to understand from their perspective. Even if you end up wrong about something from an analysis perspective, humans. That's why, like, if IQ comes up to me and is like, hey, man, I'm better than you think I am. I'm tired of you saying that I'm not a good point guard or whatever. It's like, yeah, dude, I wouldn't like that either. However, like, I don't like when people talk. Well, talking shit is like maybe a bit strong, but I don't like when people talk shit about me. I turn on this chat and I make like a million times less money than IQ, and it's just people calling me bald. Hey, man, them's the breaks. You just got to try and handle it. I hope that IQ would be a good sport in the same way that I try to be. But like, oh God, I'm talking about this like as if I'm some big IQ hater. I'm not. Anyway, I hope IQ proves me wrong and has a much better career than I am like as an analyst. I am thinking that he will. I hope to eat humble pie on every player that I'm low on, and I hope these guys all have great careers. Regardless, 830 people in here. Like the video before, it'll help spread it to other people. Thank you so much to everybody for jumping in. I have to go down to the stadium. Jose Sanchez says, I'm a bald brother, win this together. There's no stronger fraternity than the fraternity of bald men. Rock on, everybody. Okay, like the video, comment afterwards. It helps the channel, all that good stuff. Oh my God, somebody donated $20. The Power donated. Well, now I got to stick around. The Power says, the funny thing is, I've seen BI come back from being out from an extended amount of time out and still able to drop 30 on opponents' heads. BI is usually always in shape too. Okay, first of all, thank you very much for the $20 donation. Secondly, yes, Brandon Ingram has unbelievable touch. Is truly one of the best tough shot makers in. Pedro Toad says, if we keep on donating money, we can keep Samson trapped in this basement forever. That is like a perfect microcosm of Twitch streaming, right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, anyway, just really well summed up. But to the Power's point, yes, thank you very much. But yeah, Brandon Ingram is one of the most talented mid-range shot makers, not just like in the league right now, but that I've ever seen, when you consider how difficult the shots he takes are. And he is a guy, like, as I said, he's not a flow player. He just gets into his own thing and finds he can play staccato. He can jump off the bench and go get you buckets. He doesn't have to like find it. Ben Simmons, big time flow player. When he didn't play for forever, it took him forever to like find the motion of the game. Especially if you don't have a jump shot, you're typically a flow player. You need to succeed on the in between. But Ingram has the handle to get to where he likes to take his jumpers, so he can step off the bench. Probably like he's not me at the media game being like, damn, I ain't played in a while. He just walk into a gym and just immediately can dominate even a gym full of NBA players. He is such an immense talent. I talked about this in my video essay, which did well. I'm glad a lot of people watched it and liked it. Brandon Ingram represents the high-end shot making that the Raptors clearly need, and he also represents, hopefully, some latent ability to garbage man a little bit, to cut more often, to finish on the move, to play in flow. We really want to see that aspect of his game shine with these Raptors and in Darko Rajakovic's offense, which has tons of screening, has tons of motion, moves the ball quickly. If it doesn't happen in Toronto, it's never happening. People, scouts, Analysts, fans have told me about the time that Brandon Ingram spent with Team USA where he struggled to play flow basketball. And when there were other really talented players on the floor, he couldn't step into that secondary or tertiary role and make it happen. He did struggle. However, it's just a short stint with Team USA. He's going to get a training camp with his Raptors team. This is his team. They play a certain way. Yes, they're going to relent and give him some more of his package and let him be like an isolationist to some degree, of course. But they need to get more out of that in-between stuff. They need to get more out of that tertiary stuff, and I think they can. I'm wearing the optimist cap for that. All right. Like the video before you get out here. Thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. I have so appreciated these Saturday chats and that people come and watch them. Really appreciate listeners. Really appreciate viewers. Myself and Trey will be back on Thursday morning, and we'll be talking about Ace Bailey plus Raptor stuff. But Ace Bailey, he's fun. I've been watching the film. He's such a stupid shot maker. Like Brandon Ingram is a stupid shot maker. Ace Bailey, I'll just say, like, I'll pull it up. Ace Bailey, as a quick teaser before I get out of here, has one of the best, I believe, like ever guarded 3-point shot making in Synergy college player history. I think I'm correct about this. I saw that stat somewhere, but I'll just give you the stats. Ace Bailey on guarded 3-pointers. Keep in mind, guarded makes it much more difficult. He's shooting 45%, 29 made triples on 65 attempts. And here's the thing, on unguarded threes, he's shooting 24%. He is the guy, usually this where people say like he shoots better when a guy is on him than not, is like not usually true. Ace Bailey, it's true, man. Oh my, the level of shooter he is. Like, I understand the qualms people have about his game, that it's just tough shot making. Like, I get it. You watch, although he did just have that game where he was able to get to the bucket and played, like, was making these stampede cuts, was catching and driving really aggressively. Like, oh man, I love seeing that. And again, like, these are just young men who, they get like 35 games to try and tell you what the future looks like for them. It's tough. But what he shows clearly and repeatedly, God, he can snap that net, dude. He really can snap that net. The level of shooter he is truly, truly impressive. SP says, did Rutgers play tough college competition? Some, yeah. I mean, there's a reason they're losing. They're not as good as people thought they would be. It's tough for freshmen to lead college teams anywhere. You know, it's that getting used to that competition. The 4-year guards are so impressive. They really steer teams towards winning, and they just, Rutgers, they play some tough competition. I won't pretend to be, the college czar who knows, this conference. But yeah. All right. Joseph Cassidy says they got a loud 3-pointer. Dude, the loudest. All right. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Joseph, you're always here, so thank you for getting in at the end. I don't know if I missed any of your comments earlier. Listeners on audio, thank you for listening. Does anybody review things on Apple Podcasts anymore? You could do that. Oh, man. Devin, I will answer more questions. I will answer more questions next Saturday will be not a live. It'll be just a video, just a podcast. But anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. Like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel. It helps me. Listen, we are one of, myself and Trey, the Mailbags, we are one of Canada's favorite basketball podcasts. We want to grow even farther. We want that. We want to fight for number one, dude. We want to go up with hello and welcome and be the Twin Towers, dude. We want to be Robinson and Duncan, dude. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Love you very much. All right. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.